So welcome to the Node.js community NAPI team meeting for July the 5th, 2018. We're going to follow our usual pattern, which is to go through the list of the current milestone, which is milestone 10, and see where we're at on the different things. So let me share that. Okay, so what we have so far is the blog to coincide with 6.8 and 8.x backport availability. We're working on that with Arunish. The only update I have on that is I did see a PR for the 8.x candidate, the next December minor release. I did validate that it includes the taking NAP out of experimental, which is important. And I also suggested another few backports. I think at least one of them was yours, Gabriel, fixing a particular problem, as well as one that I'd fixed in terms of a memory leak. So if there's any other key things you think need to be backported to version 8, if you can take a look and find that issue and comment in there as well.
I do have a question about how this relates to us marking things as experimental. You know, the API surface will be different between the supported versions, even within the experimental landscape, right? Because if we land something as experimental on 10.0 or 10.x, then it is not available at all, experimental or otherwise, in earlier versions, right? So there is still so there's a distinction between what version of an API, including experimental, and what version of Node.js has that version of an API, including experimental. So unless we start backporting absolutely everything, there will still be distinctions. So I don't know, where do we document this, and how do we express this?
Yeah, I mean, I think for experimental, it's kind of like, don't expect it to be available across the releases.
Okay, but then a consequence of that is that moving something out of experimental entails making it available on all supported releases.
Not necessarily. So what I had in mind is, like, when we take it out of experimental, we'll bump the nappy version.
Oh, I see. Right. Yes. Of course. Yes. And then we already know that the highest available version for some release is X, and then that becomes X minus the latest, or 1 minus the latest.
Exactly.
Okay.
I do think we need to look at, like, if we're going to backport something, if we're going to backport it as something that's non-experimental, we probably have some flexibility, but generally, I'd look at us saying, well, do we backport an entire nappy version or not?
Yes, actually, come to think of it, yeah, this is one of the implications of increasing the version. I mean, if we release something under some new NAPI version other than experimental, then I suspect we should always keep an eye on whether we want to backport this, because there may very well be a strong desire to have this newfangled NAPI version available on all available Node versions.
Yeah.
Okay. All
right. But the first would be, like, take it out of experimental, put it in a new nappy version to master, then, backport to the first version, and then figure out what other ones we want to backport.
Yeah. So basically we're in a situation where we're going to end up sort of cutting new NAPI versions out of the pool of experimental APIs that we've added. And
exactly.
Then when we do the cutting, we need to perhaps try to maximize the subsequent availability of it, potentially, or at least try to think about that before we release.
We can think about it. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into cases where we can't backport any new things to
right.
It's just going to happen. But yeah, I think whenever I think that's why it'll be good, since if basically things get promoted from experimental into an nappy version release, that's the perfect time to think about, okay, and where does it make sense to backport that particular content to?
Right. And which ones to put into the release as a function of whether they can be backported, and how much weight do we place on this, and so forth. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll be there at some point.
Yeah.
We've already got some accumulation in experimental now.
Yeah, we have some in experimental, and we have a couple we've still got to figure out whether we should move into experimental and
Yes.
or not, because we're kind of we're a little bit I wouldn't say broken, but we're in a position we'd prefer not to be, where there's a couple that are not in an app you've didn't get a proper nappy
Yeah,
version of,
exactly.
but
Yeah. So now if you mark them experimental, then that's kind of like what? Since when?
yeah, so that's kind of our growing pains, but
Yeah.
we will, yeah, we will see. I mean, I guess the risk today is that if we do that the way it is now, you could build against a later version, and it wouldn't actually run against an earlier version because you're using those particular functions.
Yeah, but that's intentional, right? I mean, you're saying the minimum supported NAPI version is X, therefore it will
Yeah,
only work with
I just
later than
mean for
X.
those new, for those two that we
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
move
yeah,
the
yeah.
version, we're
Right.
in a position where it's not going to quite do what people expect. But
Correct me if I'm wrong, but can we not look at it from the point of view that this pretty much forces the next released version of NAPI to have them? Like NAPI version 4 will almost certainly have these because they were in such a situation. So it's not
well,
that
then we would need to bump the default version to 1.4 to avoid breaking people.
oh. Oh, right. Yes, yes. Well, hmm.
In at least 10, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if we put them into 1.4 and we made it the default for 10, that might be the best solution.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course the question becomes is bumping what level of semver is bumping the NAPI version within a single release?
It's semver minor in that it's adding new things that you can't go back from, right?
Uh, is it though? Because you know if you haven't said anything at all, right? Then like if you just include node API.h, oh yeah, then you get experimental. Never mind. Okay, yeah, so then that's good. Or do you? Wait.
I mean, I think ideally if we could follow up with whoever created those new methods and added them and see if we could just move them to the experimental, that would be the best bet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be clean. But still, like if you don't say anything, right, before you include node API.h, you get whatever version we deem to be the default, right?
Right, which
So
is, yep.
so then if you build against that version and then we change even with a minor version, we change the default an API and you don't make any code changes, then your code will all of a sudden be built against the later version.
Right, which is okay. The problem though is that it's semver minor because you've added somebody new
Yes,
building
yes.
could now use functions they couldn't use before, so you can't then go back to a previous one.
No, it's true. It's true. It's at least Semver minor, but I'm trying to decide whether it's Semver major or not because I mean, the NAPI version itself is kind of an API, the
I
preprocessor
don't think
directly.
it's major because we should never be breaking anything that's major.
No, no, not the API itself is not Semver major, but in a weird way, the fact that we're changing a value of a constant.
If we changed it down, I could see that being semver major, but not up.
No, no. Right. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'll think about that some more, but you're almost certainly right.
So yeah, so those two. So the main thing there is that we will get an 8.x semver minor that takes it out of experimental for 8.x.
And provides version 3, right?
Yes, although I think that's already there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it is. That's what
Like
they
you
all
already
have.
the only changes really are going to be that it's actually marked as non-experimental
Yeah, that's good.
and that we've got a couple bug fixes that can go in.
Excellent.
Otherwise, it's the same. It doesn't really change anything for people other than it's officially non-experimental, which is what we're going to then say, trumpet.
Good stuff.
Okay, the next item was create a workshop for Node Summit. I think we'll just leave that to the end because I think we plan to stick around and work on that anyway, so probably worth doing that. Document guidance on adding APIs to NAPI. So Hitesh had put together a list, and he was going to get somebody, he was away, so he was going to get somebody else to open a PR. I haven't seen it yet. Has anybody else?
I don't, who did
Let's
last
see.
week we kind of agreed that it would be a PR, and we were kind of debating where it should go. And I believe, if I remember correctly, our sort of consensus was that it should go into guides. Like there's doc guides, and then that would be a good place for it, and give us something we can refer to whenever somebody opens an issue or a PR that
Yeah, I think
poses it.
Hitesh had taken the action to figure out where.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking to see where he told me he was going to put it. No, let's see if I can find that, Red. I'm just searching my email now. That's not the right one for sure. Sorry, I got too much of my old mail. It's taken a while. Anyway, might as well. He basically had suggested a place. I said, sure. He said, oh, I'm going to be away, so I'll get somebody else on his team who's going to actually submit it. Okay, let me know. I can see if I can find it. So he'd suggest putting them into
Guides.
right. So basically, yeah, maybe you were on that email. So it's a doc, just be a doc in guides contributing, and then link it off to contributing or collaborator guides.
Yeah.
Yep. So I haven't seen that PR go through yet, though. I don't know if anybody else has seen it.
If Hitesh doesn't have time for it, I can do the PR.
Yeah, I was going to volunteer too, but he said he would get somebody else to do it.
Oh, okay.
So he said Jimmy will open it. Let me just see if there's any pull requests, an API.
Ha.
I don't see anything. Anyway, I guess we'll leave it till Monday, and I'll follow up with Hitesh and go from there.
Okay.
So back to milestone 10. SQLite resolve the Mac issues. So it's too bad Anisha's not around because she was doing some work on that front. Oh, wait a sec. Okay, she says she's on the call. Let me see. No, can you drop? I'm just going to ask her to rejoin. Okay. I'm just asking her to drop off and join. So we'll just give her a minute because get an update that. I know, Jim, that there was some comments from what's his name?
Dane
Dane,
Springmeyer.
right? Dane, about the SQLite port, which he was working on, which was good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that at least the PR I pointed at him fixed a couple of the things. Okay, so I'm going to get Nisha in. Here we go.
Oh.
Hello there. Now we can hear you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So we were just on the SQLite and API port.
Yeah, I'm working on trying on the things that we discussed from last time, but I've been away for a little while, a few days. So I'm back now, and I'm just trying to figure out how to. I think we discussed initialize the date and regex global variable in the init function.
Yeah, like basically cache them so that when you only get them once.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I should have that done soon.
I don't. There was another issue where the actual maintainer of SQLite was saying, "Hey, these are missing."
Yeah, I responded to him in his own PR and told him that I would let him know when there was an update.
Okay. So, any more discussion or anything of interest to discuss there, or?
Not yet.
Okay. And I guess the other thing, did you look at because caching those was one thing. The other thing was just figuring out the int32 check.
Yeah, I think I have that. I can go over with you maybe on Monday if that's okay.
Okay, that sounds good, because yeah, it would be good to give that to him as well, because I think it should be clear what the suggestion is for the other two, and then, but yeah, maybe if we can go over on Monday and even give him the updated PR, that'd be great.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Just for everybody else, the int32 check, we did look at the V8 code, and it didn't look like it was doing anything special. Like it wasn't retaining any state that let it tell that it was an int32. It was just doing a check on the, doing some math.
Oh, okay.
So we figured we can do that math just as well.
Yeah.
So that's the way that Anish has been pushing it forward. Investigate use of pre-build with an API.
Yeah, so I'm making progress on that. I'm able to do builds and publish. There is a separate tool called pre-build install, which is my next step, and then that should bring this work to completion.
Okay, and did it require changes to
Not
the
much.
stuff?
No, this is much cleaner than Node pre-jib, because it's designed to do multiple builds.
Okay.
So it's way, way, way cleaner than Node pre-jib.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're almost there, and then
yeah,
it's just a matter of documenting, which is great.
And getting the tests.
Okay. Enforce snappy version in module headers.
Landed. Nice.
Landed. Okay. That's good, because now we just got to get agreement on those other conditions so that we can make sure nothing lands that's not in experimental. But for now, we just need to keep our eyes on that. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. Great. Okay, burn down list of issues in the repo and issues raised by the module owners. I don't know if there's anything new or special to talk about on that front.
Just a doc PR that was an issue raised in the repo, and PR's ready to land. I just need to get a green CI on it, and that should be it.
Okay.
It's already approved 4 times over.
Excellent. There's also at least one issue reporting like a potential memory leak or something that needs some investigation. But...
Oh, that one. Wait, which one was that? Yeah. That one was we kind of just left it. It's not a memory leak. If you're talking about number 21441, then
is this in the Node repo? Sorry, a Node repo or?
Yeah, in the Node repo, the main repo.
So let me find GitHub. Sorry, you said
21441.
Okay, it's cutting me off there. 21441.
Yeah.
So no, this one I think is different.
Okay, so this is not the one you're talking about.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I think I don't think there's a nappy issue there necessarily, right?
No, nor is it a leak. I believe this is just a matter of getting the GC to behave the way you would expect it to behave.
Yeah.
And the solution that Ben offered, I think, is valid. And however, I don't believe as strongly as Ben does that we should integrate the solution into an API, because he was suggesting that maybe whenever we get a buffer for an external buffer for which we know the size, we should inform V8 that so much more memory has been added, and so perhaps it should GC more often. Because if we do it, but then module owners who are aware of this memory reporting also do it, then now we're giving V8 a more pessimistic picture than it really is. So
yeah, I think we should look at that. There are places in the VM where that's automatically done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like already when you like say you zlib. So for example, when zlib uses memory internally,
yeah,
it will automatically adjust the memory to try and help tell the GC what's going on.
Okay, right. But from the point of view of the VM, zlib is just another add-on, right? And so in that sense, it is the add-on's responsibility to make these announcements, right? So then if we're dealing with somebody else's, like a third-party add-on, there too, I think it should be this way, because if we start internalizing this into an API, then it is as if the VM itself did it automatically, right? But if you use V8, then it doesn't do it automatically.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not saying this particular case. I was just saying in some cases.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, add-ons should definitely inform the VM of the memory burden that some objects carry, if that memory burden is not obvious or traceable by the VM.
Okay. So there was another. Oops. There was another one where. Let me just find it.
Are you talking about that iltorb issue? Because there was that, but then that also was resolved.
Sorry, which one was that?
With this compression library.
Yeah,
maybe that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, which one is that?
Nicola, you had the link last time. Can you please?
We have in Abyssable Node reference in Node models owner section.
Oh yeah, that one.
You linked the.
Yeah, but I think I only linked the. Oh.
You pasted into the chat. Maybe you just did. No.
I need to find just a moment.
Yeah, here we go. Raised by module owners. Yeah, it's a comment in this raised by module owners issue, but I believe. Okay, yeah, here it is. Yeah, so okay. Pull request number 70. Yeah.
You find?
Yeah.
Can you paste into the chat?
Yeah, I will as soon as I figure out how to open the chat.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I believe this one was settled because the NAPI PR has landed in this module since then.
No, so that wasn't this one. This one was again like they figured it wasn't an issue. There was one where it was one of the was raised by Node add-on. No. Was raised by Webern or Rivertam. I'm pretty sure it was actually raised by Rivertam. Like my last comment was, hey, like could you come up with a recreate, like give us the code, but
right.
I can't find that.
Okay, yeah, it might be Node add-on API because this person recently forked that repo and made 3 commits, so that might either have.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, he participated in a number of different things, but let's see. It's look for closed. Huh. I don't know why I can't find that. Well, there was definitely in one of our repos, but I can't find issues. It's looking closed here. Huh. Okay, where are issues?
Okay, maybe here. Here was a River Thames. It's a comment in one of the issues. Maybe.
Which can you paste the link to that?
Yeah. Doing that as soon as I figure out to bring this forward. There we go. Perhaps this.
Yes. Okay. So that one, right?
Oh, okay. I think worker.
Right. Yes. Okay. That's exactly the one I was thinking of. So this is just one that I haven't had a chance to get back to, but if anybody else has a chance, I think we just need to take the code and see if there is a leak there.
Okay. Yeah.
There is a to do in the code somewhere that might be affecting that.
You mean in the Node add-on API code?
Yes. So.
Oh, there are many. There are actually places where where I'm not actually sure how we will ever do that. Like we heap allocate some function callback stuff that we simply to do free, but we don't actually do that. So yeah,
that's not so good.
No, it's not. But for now, I think we are safe because V8 itself doesn't garbage collect anything that has a native backend. So we wouldn't actually ever be called upon to free that. But that is not something we should rely on.
Right. I thought though that maybe it was like I wondered if like because basically there's one example is this guy. Where are we? Where is this guy? And the complaint seemed to be that when they had to create a function, maybe that's not exactly the right one, but it's like they had to create a callback to provide to when they created the worker, I think.
A native backed callback?
Basically, it needed to make a callback. They need to provide a callback, which they didn't need to use. You can actually see it's in there. It's basically like an optional function reference to an empty callback. Well, that was the solution, but the needed to create a callback.
Oh, I see.
And then that callback is passed in. Now there are ways to do around it, but I wondered if it was related.
Okay, so they are basically creating native backed functions in a loop.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna leak. That's gonna leak for sure. But it's not like even if they did this in plain V8, it would still leak because V8 does not garbage collect native backed functions. I'm pretty sure. I actually tried it, and it doesn't.
So basically, if you create a function from a native, there's no way of getting rid of it.
No. Like I tried creating a function, assigning it to a variable in JavaScript, then setting the variable to null, and then calling GC, and it didn't GC.
I guess there's a difference between no guarantee between it being GC'd and never being GC'd.
Of course, the GC is never a guarantee, but it is fairly deterministic because we are using it in many places to determine whether finalized callbacks are getting called. And you don't even have to call it multiple times. Usually you call it once and it behaves deterministically and it calls the finalized. Well, not in this case.
Okay, so I guess it would be worth writing something up on that front.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like we should probably validate that, hey, yes, this is a known problem. It's not a, it's, you know, it's an issue in V8, so there's nothing really we can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you're creating functions like native functions, don't create a new one every time, right? Like eventually their solution was, well, they create a reference, keep one alive, and that's it, right? Which is okay, fine, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be good to say, okay, I kind of understand that now.
Yes. However, in terms of API design, I'm not sure if it would be worth having this callback be optional. So
that was a thought I had too, right? Like that might just help this case. If you really don't want to call back, then yeah, you can not provide one.
Yeah, that's probably best. I mean, especially if it's never going to get called, then there's just no point in having it.
Well, it would be called, I think.
Oh, it just doesn't do anything useful.
Yeah, well, it might not be. Actually, if you override on OK and on error, it's probably not called even.
Okay, but wait a second. I mean, if we're talking about performing async work, right? If you don't inform anyone of the work that you have performed, then what is the point of it? I mean, it's, you know, unless it's all side effects and no actual return value.
Yeah, well, that's the example of their thing. Like it's basically you want something to run native code at some interval.
Oh, okay.
And
not only do you want it to run at some interval, you want it to run in a thread pool at some interval.
Yeah.
You don't actually care about any results. Yeah, okay. But then
I kind of see your, yeah, exactly.
Why aren't they providing a nappy value from JavaScript and passing it through?
Well, that would be the other, you know, that would be the other solution is you just, you know, have a JavaScript thing that's passed in, use that as your callback, even if it's never called, right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely that seems to be the solution, not creating a native back function every time. Okay, but I guess if they don't understand that native back functions are simply not ever garbage collecting,
right? And there's nothing that really explains that. So I think that's totally fair. Right?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I can comment on here. Let me see. I mean, I found it, so I should have it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you comment on that one and basically say you're 100% sure that V8 never does it, then I think it's a matter of us updating our documentation. And I assume that applies to NAPI itself as well, right?
Well, I mean, only insofar as it applies to V8, which is 100%. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you can comment in there, okay, well, that's good. So it sounds like there's nothing really to investigate. We understand the issue. We just need to document. I'll take the action to add some documentation around that. But if you can just comment sort of saying, hey, I've looked at this and I'm sure this is the case. Okay, well, that's good. Good. We're glad we had that discussion because we can solve it, answer the thing, and clarify what's going on without spending too much time. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get back to, where was it? Milestone, there we go. Documentation push. So we have landed a few more things. So let's take a look. I think we want to spend some time looking at that today too. So if we look here, let's go and, okay.
You know, the thing is though, for the callback to worker to be optional is not necessarily a bad thing, because I mean, this person has brought forth a use case where there really need be no callback. So it's just fire and forget sort of.
I think that's another, you know, so I think we can do two things. I'll take the action to document. The other thing we probably want to put in is at least open an issue to say, consider making that callback optional.
Yeah.
Because I you know, I agree, especially if you override things, you know, you can sort of, forcing people to create something or pass something in doesn't sound good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like, passing a function for no reason.
Okay, so array. I'm just clicking on these to make sure we've got the. We can go through and just do a quick audit of. Okay, value. Callback info.
I just got to make a gist now to illustrate this. But anyway, I'll make the gist.
Okay, just you're gonna write object. Okay, so we have. Okay, so I think we have object reference, and I'm not sure why those are in object reference and property descriptor. So, okay, so we have that correct. Oops. Let me find where is, no. I gotta close some things so I can more easily find the right stuff. No, okay, sorry, documentation push, okay. Error handling. Okay. So we got that. That looks good. Object lifetime. So we got this guy. Okay, I think those are good. Now working with JavaScript functions, JavaScript values.
I'm writing these, and tomorrow I will publish. I need to review something.
Okay, so is that covering all of these here, or?
A function reference for tomorrow. Next week, object wrap and
Okay.
class property.
So I'm going to, what's left? Okay, so you're working on those 4, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I will edit that after we, so. Okay, so buffer, array buffer, typed array of, so those are, so I guess I was curious when I was there, these are just more not basic types, but advanced types, right? Like I was just trying to understand the difference between the categorization where we had these working with JavaScript values versus the basic types. So, okay, so let me, object reference and property descriptor. So Nisha, I guess you were looking at those.
Yeah, I'm still definitely planning on doing object reference alongside the test case that's been on hold for a while.
Okay.
But I think that the reference is already done.
Yeah, so these guys are done, right?
Yeah.
So basically we're down to that.
I can get those two done.
Okay. Set it that, just. Because yeah, it'd be great to get this done in time for the Node Summit.
Yeah.
And then there are these guys, right? Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, so. Okay, and therefore, so, okay, JavaScript memory management. Right, that was done already, so that's good. Async
Yeah.
operations. So this one, async worker, right. Yeah, okay, so that's, okay, good. Promises. Okay, so it seems like we've got that outline completed. I wonder if there's anything else that we're missing from that list. So to completing the remaining sections should star. Okay. But first things first, first get the sections completed, then we can go and look at those. Okay, so that's good. Anything else we think we should talk about in terms of moving forward on the documentation?
Mm. Oh.
Okay, it looks like we're pretty close to being there. So, okay. Back to this. So documentation push. So, okay. So I think that's the regular content. So now we could flip back to the workshop for Node Summit. And I think at this point, I'll close out the regular an API call because I think we're at the end unless people have anything else to talk about.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the